Kael Nightborn was the youngest Alpha King the Silvercrest Pack had seen in 3 generations. He was strong, respected, and feared. His people followed him without question, and his enemies watched him from a careful distance. Among those enemies was Draven, the Alpha of the Ironfang Pack, who had wanted Kael's throne for many long years. The 2 packs lived under a fragile truce, a peace that could break at any moment. Kael carried the weight of that peace on his shoulders every single day, and he carried it alone. Every year, the packs gathered together for a great ceremony called the Gathering. It was a rare night when old rivals stood in the same clearing under the same moon, bound by tradition to keep the peace. Kael attended every year with the same cold expression, the same guarded heart. He had learned long ago that a king could not afford to feel too much. Feeling made a man weak, and weakness in a king could cost lives. But this year was different. As Kael moved through the crowd, greeting the elders and nodding to the visiting alphas, a scent reached him that he had never known before. It was soft and warm, like rain on spring earth, and it pulled at something deep inside his chest. His steps slowed. His heart, which had been quiet for so long, began to pound. He turned his head and searched the clearing until his eyes found her. She stood at the very edge of the ceremony, half hidden in the shadows of the trees. She was quiet and still, watching the others with careful eyes. She wore simple clothes, and she carried no pack mark, which meant she belonged to no one. She was a rogue, a wolf without a family. And yet, the moment Kael saw her, the bond between them ignited like a spark catching dry wood. She was his mate. For the first time in his life, the cold Alpha King felt something crack open inside him. It was a feeling he had no words for, warm and terrifying all at once. He wanted to walk to her, to speak to her, to learn her name. Before he could take a single step, one of his advisors appeared at his side and pulled him back toward his duties. Kael let himself be led away, but his eyes never left the young woman at the edge of the trees. Her name, he would soon learn, was Lyra. That night, after the ceremony ended, Kael could not sleep. He walked the quiet halls of his home, thinking of the woman he had seen. He wanted to find her and tell her the truth. But before dawn, an old seer came to him. She was a wise woman who had served the Silvercrest Pack for many years, and her warnings were never wrong. "I saw your face at the gathering," the seer said softly. "I saw the moment your heart changed. You have found your mate." Kael did not deny it. "I have," he said, "and I mean to claim her." The seer's expression grew grave. "Then you will kill her." Kael went very still. "Explain yourself." The old woman lowered her voice. "There is an ancient feud tied to your bloodline. For generations, whoever becomes the mate of the Silvercrest Alpha has been marked for death. There are those who fear a strong heir, those who would rather see your line end than grow stronger. They have killed before, and they will kill again. If you claim this woman in front of the pack, if you make your bond known, she will not live to see the next moon." The words fell over Kael like cold water. He had waited his whole life to feel what he had felt at the gathering, and now he was being told that the very act of claiming her would end her life. He thought of Lyra standing quietly at the edge of the trees, unaware of the danger that surrounded her. She had no pack to protect her, no warriors to guard her door. She was alone, and that made her the easiest target in the world. "There must be another way," Kael said. "There is only one way to keep her safe," the seer answered. "You must reject her. You must break the bond and send her far from you. If your enemies believe she means nothing to you, they will have no reason to harm her." Kael closed his eyes. Of all the things fate could have asked of him, this was the cruelest. He had finally found the one person who made him feel alive, and now he had to push her away to keep her breathing. The next day, Kael made the hardest choice of his life. He called the pack together, and he sent word for the young rogue to be brought before him. When Lyra stepped into the great hall, her eyes met his, and he saw the same recognition in her face that he felt in his own heart. She knew what he was to her, she had felt the bond too, but Kael could not let it show. With every ounce of strength he had, he made his face cold and hard. "You are a rogue," he said, his voice loud enough for all to hear. "You carry no mark, no name, no worth to this pack." Whatever you believe passed between us, you are mistaken. I reject you as my mate. Leave this place and do not return." The words tore through the hall like a blade. Gasps rose from the crowd, and worst of all, Cale watched the light in Lyra's eyes go dark. He saw her pride shatter, saw the hurt bloom across her face. She had come to him with hope, and he had crushed it in front of everyone. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she lifted her chin, and though her eyes shone with unshed tears, her voice did not break. "I understand," she said quietly. "I will not be anyone's discarded mate, not yours, not ever." She turned and walked out of the hall with her head held high, and Cale let her go. It was the only way to save her, and it was the worst thing he had ever done. Lyra left Silvercrest territory that same day. She walked for hours through unfamiliar lands, her heart heavy and her pride wounded. She had spent her whole life alone, and she had allowed herself to hope, just for a moment, that she had finally found somewhere to belong. That hope was gone now, but as she walked, something else began to grow in its place. It was not sadness, it was determination. She would never let anyone make her feel small again. Her path led her, without her knowing, into Ironfang territory. She was tired and hungry when the Ironfang scouts found her, and they brought her before their Alpha Draven. He was a tall man with sharp eyes, and he studied her carefully as she stood before him. "A rogue," he said, "wandering into my lands alone. You are either very brave or very foolish." "I have nowhere else to go," Lyra answered honestly. "I ask only for a chance to prove I am worth something." Draven was silent for a long moment. There was something about this young woman that caught his attention. She carried herself with quiet strength, and beneath her exhaustion, he sensed a power she did not yet understand. He was also a clever alpha, and he knew that a wolf turned away by Silvercrest might one day be useful to him. "Very well," he said. "You may stay. But you will earn your place like everyone else." And so Lyra stayed with the Ironfang pack. In the weeks that followed, she worked harder than anyone. She trained until her body ached, learned the ways of the pack, and slowly earned the respect of those around her. And as she grew stronger, something remarkable happened. A power awoke inside her that she had never known she carried. It came from a rare and ancient bloodline, one that had been hidden in her for her whole life. When it finally rose to the surface, even Draven was amazed. Lyra was no ordinary rogue. She was something far greater. The pack came to admire her deeply. She was fair, brave, and kind, and she treated everyone with respect. In time, Draven saw her not only as a valuable member of his pack, but as someone worthy of standing at his side. He offered her the honored place of Luna, the female leader of the Ironfang pack. Lyra accepted, not out of love, but out of a desire to build a life where she was valued. For the first time, she was not the girl no one wanted. She was crowned, respected, and strong. Months passed. The fragile truce between the packs required regular meetings, and the time came for Cale to travel to Ironfang lands to renew the agreement. He arrived with a heavy heart, still haunted by the memory of the woman he had sent away. He had thought of her every day since she left, wondering where she was, hoping she was safe. He never expected to find her here. When Cale entered the great hall of the Ironfang pack, he stopped in shock. There, standing beside Draven, crowned as the Luna of his greatest rival, was Lyra. She was more beautiful and more powerful than he remembered. She met his gaze without flinching, her eyes cold and steady. The woman he had rejected to save was now his rival's greatest strength, and the sight of her broke something inside him all over again. "Alpha King Nightborn," Draven said with a knowing smile. "I believe you already know my Luna." Cale could barely speak. "Lyra," he said quietly. "You will address me by my title," she replied evenly. "Whatever we once were, that is finished." The meeting was tense and difficult. Cale could hardly focus on the terms of the truce, for his eyes kept drifting to Lyra. He wanted to explain, to tell her the truth about why he had rejected her, but he knew she would not listen, and he could not blame her. But as the days of negotiation went on, an old danger returned. The seer's warning had never truly been about distance. The true threat had always been a hidden traitor, someone close to the throne who feared the Silvercrest bloodline, and now that traitor learned that Lyra had grown powerful and beloved, they saw her as a threat no matter which pack claimed her. Strange accidents began to happen around Lyra. A loose stone nearly fell on her. Her food carried a bitter, wrong smell. Kale, who had spent his life watching for danger, noticed the signs at once. His blood ran cold. The very thing he had rejected her to prevent was happening anyway. He went to her that night, though he knew she did not wish to see him. "You are in danger," he told her. "Please, you must listen to me." "Why should I trust a single word you say?" she asked. And so Kale finally told her the truth. He told her about the ancient feud, about the seer's warning, about the marked death that came to every mate of the Silvercrest Alpha. He told her that his cruelty in the Great Hall had not been scorn but sacrifice, that he had broken his own heart to save her life. Lyra listened in silence, and as she did, the anger she had carried for so long began to shift into something more complicated. She had believed he threw her away because she was worthless. Now she learned he had done it because he could not bear to see her die. "You should have told me," she said, her voice trembling. "You made the choice for me. You never gave me the chance to fight for myself." "I know," Kale said, "and I have regretted it every day since." Before she could answer, a shadow moved in the corner of the room. The traitor had come at last, striking now that Lyra was distracted. But the traitor had made a grave mistake, for Lyra was no longer the frightened rogue she had once been. Her power surged to life, bright and fierce, and she was ready. What followed was a moment of great danger for them all. The traitor lashed out, and Kale moved to shield Lyra, just as he always had. But this time, Lyra did not need to be saved. Her strength rose like a rising sun, and she turned the traitor's own scheme against them. When Kale stumbled, it was Lyra who pulled him to safety. It was she who ended the threat, not the other way around. The one who had once been rejected became the one who saved the king. When it was over, the truth was finally laid bare before both packs. The traitor was revealed, and the ancient feud that had haunted the Silvercrest bloodline was broken at last. The danger that had shaped so many terrible choices was gone. In the quiet that followed, Kale and Lyra stood facing one another. So much had changed between them. He was no longer the cold king hiding behind his crown, and she was no longer the discarded rogue with nowhere to belong. She had become an equal, a leader in her own right, respected and strong. "I do not know what happens now," Kale admitted. "I only know that I was wrong to make your choices for you. If you can ever forgive me, I will spend the rest of my life earning the trust I threw away." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. The bond between them still lived, but she was no longer the girl who would give her whole heart at the first spark. She had learned her own worth, and she would never surrender it again. "I will not be anyone's discarded mate," she said. "But I am no longer anyone's borrowed Luna either. If there is a future for us, it will be one I choose freely, as your equal and nothing less." Kale nodded, and for the first time in a long while, he smiled. "Then I will wait," he said, "for as long as it takes." And Lyra, standing tall and crowned by her own strength, allowed herself to hope once more. This time, the hope was hers alone, born not from rejection or rivalry, but from the fierce and quiet power she had found within herself. Whatever came next, she would meet it on her own terms, as the woman she had fought so hard to become.